quorum, so we're ready to get going. First item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of the December 22nd, 2021 meeting. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes? So moved. Thank you, Mike. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Denise. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? It's approved. We'll move on to committee reports. I'll kick it off with the Board Operations Committee meeting that was held on January 12th and via Microsoft Teams. We reviewed the committee agendas for last week's meeting and that are part of the agenda for today. Carm gave us a brief update on the COVID-19. About 85% of the workforce is vaccinated, and since the holidays, we've seen an uptick in positives following local and national trends. Daily absenteeism from infections and quarantine protocols is a little over 5%. We anticipate these numbers tapering off in the next few weeks. Lisa Morella joined the meeting and provided us an update on what to expect from the governor's executive budget. We will pick up with our advocacy meetings in the coming weeks. Since that meeting, we learned the executive budget proposed a 13% increase in STOA funding for upstate systems and a 36% increase for downstate systems. This will be a focal point, of course, on our advocacy. The budget also proposed $2.3 million allocation of STOA for Montgomery County service, which is less than what we need, but again, we'll be working on that in the coming weeks. The next meeting of the Board Operations Committee is slated for February the 9th at 9:15 a.m. here at 110 Waterville Avenue and via Microsoft Teams. Is there any questions on that? We'll move on to the next committee report, which is Performance Monitoring Committee, Denise Figueroa.
All right, thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. The Performance Monitoring and Audit Committee met on January 19th on Microsoft Teams and at 110 Waterville. And of course, my video is going to stop as I speak. So you'll just have to deal with it. Okay, sorry. Anyway, we have several consent agenda items here. The first one is approval of a contract for a 40-foot fixed route buses. Our contract for the purchase of fixed route buses has expired, and a new 5-year contract is required. An RFP was issued, and 3 proposals were received. An evaluation team conducted reviews of Gillig, New Flyer, and Nova. All 3 proposers provided best and final offers, and Gillig provided the best price at $491,407. That's per bus, I guess. Gillig is, sorry, that's look low. Gillig is the incumbent, and we are very satisfied with the vehicle performance and aftermarket sales and support. Staff recommends a 5-year contract to Gillig, and we need a motion for a 5-year contract to purchase up to 140-foot buses, Gillig LLC, of Hayward, California, at $491,407 per bus, plus options. Future year costs will be tied to the producer's price index.
Can we get a motion on the first resolution, please?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, thank you, Denise. Second. Thank you, Dave. Any discussion or comments about this?
No, we had an extensive discussion at the Performance Monitoring Committee meeting, and we're juggling a lot of balls here. You have a 40-foot contract, 40-foot diesel contract. We have a contract for 40-foot electric buses. We have a contract for articulated buses. And now the staff job is to start to, bring this all together, understand what our charging requirements are for electric, understanding what our space requirements are for all vehicles as we expand the service area. Wish we weren't going in 3 directions at once, but we are, unfortunately. We will have a white paper on electric shortly, how we start to integrate that purchasing cycle a little bit more aggressively into what we do. And then, of course, you got the money issue off to the side. So As far as Gillig is concerned, I think everyone knows our history with Gillig. It's top rate, and they stepped up. Their proposal was indeed so. The number one proposal honestly, it wasn't close.
I thought it was interesting
Yes.
at the committee meeting that it was also right that we were using an APTA form of request for proposals, so it's kind of the standard in the industry, very helpful in terms of making a selection here. Yes, Dave?
Hey, Mr. Chair, thanks. And this is not regarding the procurement, so to speak, but I was on a call earlier this week with APTA, and the question has come up repeatedly about, as we go through this process of becoming zero emission properties, is there going to be any relief from the FTA in early buyouts as we buy these diesel buses that have to last us 12 years? I don't have an answer to that other than that ACTA is in conversations with the FTA as to how properties should go about doing this, because we buy these buses and we're required to keep them for a minimum of 12 years if we use federal dollars for them, and that's going to put us in potentially a challenging position if we go full force with zero emissions. So just to note that is an active conversation, but there's been no determination yet from FTA as to how to handle that if we end up in that situation. And I mentioned that not necessarily because of this particular procurement, but we can buy up to 100 under this current Gillig contract. So as time rolls out, and I'm sure Carm and Lance will also obviously have their finger on this situation, but it is a conversation that's being had with FTA.
It's another ball in the pot, Dave. You're right. We're gonna
Yeah.
need, we are gonna need relief. We as an industry.
Yes.
Denise, did you have another comment?
No, that's okay. That's fine.
Okay. Any other comments or questions about the resolution? All those in
Yeah,
favor?
this is Mark.
Yes, Mark.
I'm going to abstain again. I think we're decades late starting the transition from fossil fuels, and the sooner we can get to all electric buses, the better it will be for everyone in the long run. That's part of the national global process.
Understood.
Check.
So all those in favor of resolution 1 for the Gillig contract, say aye.
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 Any opposed? And we have Mark's abstention. Thank you, everyone. It's approved. Move on to the next item,
Okay.
please.
Yes, our next item is approval of a fixed route bus purchase. We now need to order buses from the new fixed route contract that we just approved. Staff recommends buying 24 40-foot vehicles consistent with our fleet purchasing plan and service needs. The cost per bus is $505,372, which includes delivery and extended warranties. We need a motion to approve the purchase of 24 40-foot buses to Gillig LLC of Hayward, California for a total cost not to exceed $12,128,928.
Can we get a motion on this resolution? So moved. Thank you, Mike. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Denise. Any discussion or comments on this proposal?
Just one note, you'll notice that it's the usual number, annual number is 12 to 15 buses. This is a double order, so to speak. And for those of you that were with us 12 years ago, you'll remember that we had a double order. Actually, it's a little bit larger than this, and we're just compensating. And with new services coming along the line, we need the vehicles.
So in another 12 years, will there be another double order?
For those of us that are still here, there'll be a double
Just Dave will still be here.
Yeah, just Dave. Give or take.
Any other comments? All those in favor of resolution 2, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Abstain.
Thank you, Mark. Motion's approved. Thank you. Keep going, Denise.
All right, our next item is approval of a contract for paratransit vehicles. Our contract for the purchase of paratransit vehicles has expired, and a new 5-year contract is required. An RFP was issued, and 3 proposals were received, but one was determined to be non-responsive. Based on the review process, staff recommends an award to Coach and Equipment. They are the incumbent. So we need a motion to award a 5-year contract for up to 30 vehicles at a cost of $88,000 per vehicle to Coach Equipment of Canandaigua, New York. Future year costs will be tied to the producer's price index.
Can we get a motion on this purchase? Dave, thank you. Second? Peter, thank you. Any comments or questions on purchase of 30 paratransit vehicles?
Similar in concept to the fixed every 5 years, we have a contract in place. That allows us.
Do they have to be Fords or they,
No.
they can be whatever?
Well, whatever is available from the contract.
Right, and we're not making the purchase of these buses, or of these vehicles right now. It's just
Correct,
the 5-year contract.
correct, couple of months.
Yep.
Thank you for the clarification. Any other comments? All those in favor of the resolution say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Abstain.
Got it, Mark? The resolution is approved. I will move on to the
Okay.
next item.
Sorry, didn't mean to talk over you. Our next item is approval of a contract for audit services. We're required to have an independent audit completed each year, and our current contract for external audit services has expired. An RFP was issued, and 3 proposals were received. All 3 firms were qualified to perform the work. Lumsden and McCormick is the incumbent, and they have been an excellent partner for the past 15 years and instrumental in providing sound accounting advice for our organization. Staff recommends award to Lumsden and McCormick. Need a motion to award a 3-year contract with 2 optional 1-year renewals to Lumsden and McCormick LLP of Buffalo, New York for a 3-year cost not to exceed $180,000.
Can we get a motion on this resolution?
So moved.
So moved.
Thank you, Mike. Second by Denise.
Second.
Any comments or questions about the auditing contract? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? It's approved unanimously. Thank you.
Okay, and our next item is approval of a 2021 surplus sales. Every year we dispose of equipment, vehicles, and parts that are beyond their useful life, and items are auctioned on eBay, sold for scrap metal, or recycled. Some cell phones and accessories were auctioned to employees. $51,245 was returned to the operating budget because of these disposals, and we need a motion to approve the report on disposition of surplus items.
Can we get a motion
So
on
moved.
this? Thank you. Second?
Second?
Thank you, Denise. Any questions about this? Typical action this time of the year? All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Resolution is approved. Thank you, Denise. Continue with your report.
Thank you. Our next, we had a report from Sarah Matros. She provided her quarterly report for the audit committee, which is in your packets. Sarah's annual independence and objectivity statement was also reviewed, and a written summary was provided. Any questions on the audit committee? Okay, then we had administrative discussion items. The first one was the annual procurement report. Stacy Sansky provided the annual review of the procurement report, and a written summary is included in your packets. And the next item is our monthly management report, unless there were any questions on the procurement report. Sorry. No? Okay. Mike Collins provided the monthly management report. We had a record month for MRT with over $1.6 million in receipts. Customer fares and rail station revenue continue to outperform forecasts and are 55% and 112% above projections year to date. Expenses tightened in December, but remained 1.4% under budget for the year. And the wage line was over budget due to elevated overtime related to headcount issues, a year-end payout for unused personal time, and an additional holiday. Most other expenses were under budget for the year. So we're in very good financial position through 9 months and anticipate a solid finish to the year. Any questions on the financial report? Okay. And then the non-financial report was provided by Chris Desney. The ridership continues to improve. Our total ridership is up 28% this month and 28% for the year. Star ridership is up 52% a month and 50% for the year. Fixed route on-time performance is 77%. On-time performance is 77%, and Star on-time performance is 72%. Our missed trips continue to decline, but it's still too high. We expect this to continue for the next few months as we balance services and manpower. Preventable accidents are at 15 this month, and non-preventable accidents are at 20. Any questions on the non-financial report? And if none, our next meeting is on February 16th. On Microsoft Teams and at 110 Waterville Elite, and that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Denise. Yeah. We'll move on to the next committee report, which is the Community and Stakeholder Relations Committee. Pat Lance will make the report.
Thank you, Jamie. The Community and Stakeholder Relations Committee met on January 20th in person and via Microsoft Teams. The staff provided updates on communications and community engagement efforts throughout 2021. Jamie Watson provided a year-in review report on communications, outreach, media relations, and community engagement. Throughout 2021, CDTA earned 205 media placements on television, radio, and in the newspapers. The top earning months were April, June, and July, with 75 stories combined. Stories focused on our response to COVID-19, new services that we introduced, and community partnerships. Some of the initiatives contributing to earned media placements were the rollout of Albany County Nature Bus, the Rensselaer County Vax Bus, and the Schenectady Green Market Trolley. CDPHP Cycle Season 5 launch and the expansion into Warren County earned full media coverage and bolstered earned media numbers. A joint event held with the Albany Medical Center to honor essential workers also drove April media numbers. Jamie outlined goals for the 2022 Communication and Community Engagement Program. The plan will focus on COVID-19 messaging, new mobility options, and community partnerships. John Scherzer brought the committee up to speed on our efforts to communicate COVID protocols to our customers. This work is ongoing and will continue for the next few months. That concludes the reports. Any questions for Jamie or Jonathan? Okay, I guess not. All right. Next meeting will be held Thursday, February 17, 2022 at 11:30 via Microsoft Teams and at 110 Waterville Avenue.
Thank you, Pat. Good year in review there. We'll move on to the next committee report, Strategic and Operational Planning. Mike Prashant.
Great. Thanks, Jamie. The committee met last Thursday
here at 110 Waterville Ave and via Microsoft Teams. We had two administrative discussion items, the first being our fiscal year 2023 budget planning update. Mike Collins provided an update on the budget process. We expect to finish the current year in a good position. Revenue is outperforming expectations and will permit us to increase projections for fiscal year 2023, specifically for MRT, customer, and rail station revenue. We are also incorporating American Recovery Plan funding into next year's budget. The governor just released her executive budget that indicates a 13% increase in state operating assistance. It also includes some funding for a potential expansion into Montgomery County. We are keeping expenses in check this year as most expense lines are performing below projections. We are currently 1.5% under budget for the year. Overall, our budget planning is coming along, and we will fine-tune the preliminary budget for our February and March committee meeting. The second item of discussion was the BRT set-aside review. CDTC is the local metropolitan planning organization responsible for making decisions about federal transportation funding through the Transportation Improvement Program. Part of the TIP is the BRT set-aside, whose purpose is for funding planning, concept design, and preliminary engineering of BRT-related projects. These funds are also used as local match for larger grant opportunities. $162 million in capital grant funds have been awarded over the last several years, which was allocated to buses, garage expansions, BRT shelters and amenities, street and intersection reconstruction, new and upgraded traffic signals, new and replaced sidewalks, and other pedestrian infrastructure. We plan to continue supporting this important program with a progression of mobility hubs, red line upgrades, and new BRT lines. Another TIP line item known as the multimodal set-aside assists us in implementing microtransit, bike share, van pool, car share, and scooter programs. The next meeting of the committee will be February 17th at 12 p.m. here at 110 Waterville Ave or via Microsoft Teams, and that concludes my report unless there's any other comments or questions.
Okay, good, thank you, Mike. Next we'll move on to the CEO report.
Yes, thanks, Jamie. Lots of activities and programs and services that we highlight in the committee reports and also in my report. And I wish the report wasn't still dominated by COVID-19, but it is. The Omicron variant has not been kind to CDTA as it has not been kind to pretty much every employer and household globally. It's been a difficult month or so, 6 weeks. As Denise said, we've been at about 5 to 7% of our workforce out on any period of time with COVID-19. Luckily, it looks like most of the cases are indeed mild, and we've modified our procedures, so assuming the person doesn't have symptoms and et cetera, they're back usually on the 6th day. I can tell you that there has been significant improvement in the last week or so. In fact, the last couple of days, like the pull-out reports in the morning look much, much better than they did 2 weeks ago. So at least here, it looks like we're turning a corner. I'd love to tell you we've turned the corner, but I don't know that. Every time you think you are ahead of something, it just, we take 3 steps back. But we still have a lot of people out or in the quote protocol, but they're coming back, and they're coming back a little quicker. So I think the blessing, the silver lining was our ability to get the workforce up to 85% vaccinated. We wanted to be higher, but I think it protected a good number of people, and people who got COVID-19 didn't appear to be all that sick. I guess film at 11 on all of this, because I am certainly no expert, and I've yet to find anyone who is. So it's been a tough go, but it looks like things are getting better. The executive budget, we've talked about it, I think, in just about every committee report. At Board Ops, Lisa Morello gave us sort of a glimpse into how this might all play out. It's pretty obvious that the state is in pretty good shape financially. Got several $1 billion in the general fund, and that's where upstate transit funding, any increase comes from the general fund, unfortunately, whereas increases downstate come from the various taxes that fuel their accounts. The taxes that fuel our accounts aren't as robust or healthy, but that's where our discussions have already begun. A bigger number downstate, a nice number upstate, but certainly not close to what downstate is getting. So work to be done there. Work to be done also in Montgomery County, although that is a major, major step in the right direction. And again, that's playing out just the way Lisa anticipated it would, has been sort of coaching us. She expected the governor to put a number in and have the Senate and the Assembly come up with numbers in their one House bills. So far, we're on the right road. Montgomery County, we are starting to plan as if it's going to happen in the third quarter of 2022. I mean, there's no way for us not to do this. So we've got the ship moving forward, whether it be hiring vehicles, storage space in Montgomery County, etc., service planning, the various details that need to be put together. Negotiation with the school district, who already is a partner. We're also talking to major employers out in the county, hospital groups, the 5S consortium, etc. So it's moving in the right direction. We were waiting for the glimmer, the sign, and the sign really was money in the governor's budget. Had there not been money in the governor's budget, that would have been a major defeat in my mind. So all good, and we've got the local delegation working with us on that. The COVID situation in all parts of the organization really is worth noting. Some of the things that we're doing, we're pivoting constantly. And really a good example of how we pivoted was over the holiday period. We had back-to-back holiday weekends where you had literally a 3-day weekend both times. What we did is we modified our schedules. We talked with the union, and we ran a Sunday schedule 3 days in a row over both weekends. And what that did is align service to demand, reduce the need for some service, and gave lots of people an extra day off to be with their family and friends, but also to get a little relief from coming to work every day, working under really difficult situations. By all accounts, very well received. Normally, that would be a major work item to add 2 holidays and figure out how to do it. Our team put that together in a matter of hours. Worked with the union to. It was a pro-union thing. No reason for them not to endorse it. But any change is always viewed with some degree of skepticism, let's say. But it worked well, and we've got lots of examples like that. And really, this whole 2-year period has been unconventional, unplanned. I'd love to tell you everything we do is planned. There are some things that happen in the morning, and we're doing something in the afternoon. You kind of say, I hope it's right. But 9 times out of 10, we've been getting it right. This coming Monday will be a number of minor service changes, lots of routes, lots of timing adjustments, adjusting spans of frequencies, a lot of tweaking, but it's lined up with what you know now is the operator pick of runs. 3 times a year, bus operators pick their work, and it's designed to better align our resources to demand and to our head count. So we expect another small step of improvement on trip cuts on Monday. We were able to I think get the service complement better in line with our head count. You only have 3 opportunities a year to make those changes, so we maximize that. We work real closely with the ATU, and we've got a good relationship with them on that, so hopefully more improvement there. On the recruitment and retention, it is a constant activity. You know, I've been here a long time. It used to be we hired once a year, and then we hired twice a year, maybe. We hire a few people here and there, and people would be waiting to get in the door and come back next week. It's not the case anymore. It's constant. 15 new people started on Monday. Spoke to them. They seem like a great group. And there is another class in formation as we speak, and that class will start. We don't even have a start date. What we do now is we hire until we get to a number that we think is sufficient to run a class, and away we go. If the classes overlap, we figure it out. If they don't overlap, it's a little easier. But I can tell you, I went up and for the first time spoke to half the class in one room and half the class in another room. It's a product of COVID and also space. And from time to time we've rented rooms at the Marriott over on Wolf Road. It's nice. It's a nice place, but it loses something when you're not training here at our facility. So all good there. We also in the next week or two we'll bring on 2 new human resource professionals to add even more depth in our HR shop. This is a human resource manager, and we're really excited a person who has expertise in training and staff development. We've identified that as a need moving forward, especially sort of pipeline training. It also lines up with some of the things I've been talking about regarding succession planning for the whole organization. You've got to have good training and development if you're going to embody or overlay succession planning into the organization. We'll be talking more about that in the next month or 2. For those of you that have been around for a while, you'll be familiar with this. The Federal Transit Administration, every 3 years, loves to come in and do a triannual review of the organization. Our time is up. It's our turn. They come in and look at 24 functional areas. So they'll pick a functional area. It might be legal. It might be some particular part of procurement. And they literally do a file search and look at whatever they decide to look at. They may look at a project, they may look at a grant, they may look at a process or procedure, and they're looking to make sure that we're following all of the federal rules and regulations. So you get a report. That report, if we're lucky, it'll be maybe in the fall. We'll get a draft report. We'll be able to comment on that. Used to be the gold standard. You tried to hit 24 out of, maybe it's 25 functional areas now. You tried to hit 25 functional areas and get a thumbs up or a job well done. I'm pretty confident in our staff. We'll do fine. Whether we hit all 24 or not, we'll see. I'm not too concerned about that. But it's a full-time job for several people. Melissa Shanley in our finance department is the point person. But this requires everybody to be involved. And it's one of those things where the federal government comes in and literally shuts different parts of the organization down for a week or 2 while we follow them around, find files, answer questions. But it's all good. And frankly, with the amount of money that comes into the organization from the federal government, there should be a check and balance. So this is what it is. Every 3 years, a check and balance. There will be a formal report, and you'll review that with the board. But back to the whole last couple of years. There's a benefit and a sweetness to experience. You get to sort of look back and think a lot. And in the last 40 years that I've been here, I have to say that the last 2 years have been the toughest. If nothing else, the most unique. The playbook is not the playbook. We really don't have a playbook. We sometimes have to come up with new plays on the fly, but the people who work here continue to pivot and get it done, and if you think about all the new things that we've been able to do over the last 2 years and the things that we've set ourselves up to do in the next year or two, just amazing work by, people in this room, people outside the room, people driving buses, fixing buses, bringing bikes into the basement of the Albany Library, trying to get the battery recall straightened out on our electric cars for our car share program. All these things are getting done. We've got a great team here. Really is a team approach. There's a budget. The budget used to be much more difficult than it is. I think what we've done is assembled a subgroup of the board that allows that review process to be much more seamless and integrated into the board activities. So all good. Tough couple of years. It's not over for sure, but I think our response has been exemplary. Close my report.
Okay.
Much more of a commercial this month.
Yeah, well, and on a high note anyway, that's good.
Try.
Any questions for Carr? Yes, Dave?
Hey, Carl, you've got a mention in your report about a meeting that you and Jamie had with a group looking to do advocacy for us. I just want to say that I'm excited by that they're coming to us, asking to advocate for us, but can you add anything to what you've written in the report?
Sure. I thought you told me that your glasses weren't working as well as they once. You catch those little things. So in a lot
They're
of
coming to us to ask if they can help. I think that's, a testament to how far we've come.
well, we'll see, right? In a lot of communities, there are formal groups, whether they be rider groups or bicycle groups or climate groups that want to that advocate. The MTA has dozens of them. A lot of them have paid staffers, right? So there's a group that emanates from the bicycle world, but they would like to be more boisterous in the mobility world. So we've met with them. They're familiar to us. They're not unfamiliar. They've given us a couple of PowerPoint decks, and we're looking at it. We're going to go slow because they want us to endorse them as an entity. They want CDTC to endorse them as an entity. They want to be able to access grant money, foundation money, all of which we're open to. But I guess, Dave, and you know this from your work at APTA, just want to go a little slowly so we don't end up working with a group that ends up not being as friendly maybe as we thought. Right now it looks like, oh great, we're all in together and we're going to be your buddy. We just want to make sure.
Understood.
But a good group of people, they're familiar to us.
And just a quick follow-up on another item in that same bullet. Any sense of when we'll know about the results of the Complete Streets survey?
I don't. Is Ross on the... Ross, do you have an answer to that? I don't know the answer to that.
The Complete Street Survey?
I don't know what bullet that is, Dave. Maybe I misstated something.
No, you did. It was in the same bullet. It, including Complete Streets was what they were looking to advocate on. And we had a survey up, didn't we, for...
No, it was bus lane feasibility survey.
I'm sorry. Okay.
I don't know. What progress report on that, Ross? Bus lane?
The bus lane, actually, I think we're going to be going next committee meeting to talk about the status of the bus lane study.
Yep. Yeah, so in February, the board planning committee will get an update on that. That's another one, right? I mean, that on the surface looks like, boy, that's great for everybody, right? Well, great for us, great for our riders. Municipalities need to be convinced a little bit that can be integrated into their complete street work and safety and things of that nature. So, as you can imagine, in our older communities, we would very much like to see some sort of exclusive bus lane network, but it may be a bit of a reach. But that's okay. We can reach.
Thank you.
Good Good eyes, as usual, good eyes.
Any other, questions for Carr? Well, got him here?
I'm not
I have
going
a
anywhere.
couple. First, clarification, who is the advocacy group you met with? Is it Tri-State Transportation Campaign or something, something
No,
else?
no, Mark, it's local people, they don't have a name yet, they don't have a group, they're,
Mhm.
the closest thing is they're the Bicycle Coalition.
This Tri-State is based in New York City,
Yep.
but they do some policy advocacy
Yep.
for New York, New Jersey, and I guess Connecticut. Then a quick COVID prognosis, and then a question. New cases have definitely peaked and are in decline of the current wave. Positive tests are about a half the peak from the end of December, early January. New cases are less than half of the Omicron peak. Hospitalizations are still high, and ICU beds available in Albany County are only 3%, so the hospitals are still under severe strain. That's a lagging indicator that will decline. So depending on whether there's a new variant, things may be returning more to normal by March or April. By that time, also the effective antiviral drug Paxlovid, which is now very short, may be more generally available. That reduces hospitalizations among positive cases by about 90%. And they're also working on Omicron-specific vaccines, which would also be effective on new variants that are derived from Omicron, but not necessarily against other new variants. But Omicron, I think, is dominant worldwide. Guarded optimism. And my suggestion, when you talk about looking for ideas for new service, I would suggest summertime service to SPAC on weekends is something we may want to consider.
We can add that to the list. Sure. Hey, one last, going back to the advocacy group, I don't want to mischaracterize this as, we want to make sure they're friendly. That's really not necessarily how you want to go about this, but I can tell you that they are very active. When I say we're familiar, but very active in NIPTA on statewide level. So it's pretty clear that their agenda is pro-transit. But you just want to make sure you understand where both sides are coming from, especially if they're going to, start calling themselves, whatever, the Capital Region Mobility Advocates or whatever it is. Make sure that we're all on the same, not exact page, but same chapter. How's that?
Okay, thanks. Any other board comments? Anything for the good of the order here before we adjourn? No. Our next board meeting is scheduled for February 23rd, noontime, right here at 110 Waterville Avenue via Microsoft Teams. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. If I can get a motion to adjourn.
So.
Thank you, Mike. A second. Thank you, Pete. We'll all see you next month. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.